ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव। ओम गुरुदेव भगवान शिव शंकर भोलेनाथ कैलाशपति महाराज की जय, भगवान व्यास जी महाराज की जय, शंकराचार्य भगवान की जय, स्वामी चिन्मयानंद भगवान की जय, स्वामी दयानंद भगवान की जय, स्वामी प्रबुद्धानंद भगवान की जय, माता पिता की जय, सभी गुरु देवताओं की जय, सभी गुरु देवताओं की जय, सभी गुरु देवताओं की जय। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता chapter number 4. Yesterday we have seen verse number 9. Today we will see verse number 10. In verse number 9 we saw Krishna talks about himself, his birth and the truth. जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यमेव यो वेति तद्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नेति मामेति सो अर्जुनः। The one who knows in reality my divine birth and action in this way, Arjuna, gives up the body. That person is not born again. He attains me. The one who knows, the one who has the knowledge of the reality of Ishvara, the one who has the reality of Ishvara and his divine birth. Divine means not an ordinary birth like other jivas. He is not born like other jivas are born. He is a divine. He takes up a birth. He takes up a form of jiva, that is called a divine birth. And his divine actions, not only the birth, but divine karma, Aishwaram karma. The person who really understands through knowledge, who understands the reality of Ishvara's divine janma and Aishwarya karmas, he doesn't have to fall back into this world in the chakra of janma marana. He is free from papa and punya, and he does not have to come again. So the question comes, what happens to the Jnani after death then? When once a person gets the knowledge, then what happens to that Jnani Purusha? So in response to this question, Krishna says, that person becomes myself with the knowledge, saha mama eti. Through knowledge, he gains he comes to know about himself as Purnaha, or let us say as Ishvara. Then the Jiva is gone, the error is gone. When the error is gone, when the error is corrected, let's say correctly, when the error is corrected, the thought of being a Jiva is gone. The thought of being an individual is gone. The one becomes one with the whole. He doesn't change. He doesn't become something else. The error of being other than Ishvara is corrected. It is like the error of Rajju being Sarpa is corrected. The Sarpa doesn't go anywhere because it was not there. In the first stance, it was not there at all. So it doesn't go anywhere. The Sarpa, the error of Sarpa is corrected and the truth is seen. Truth doesn't come from heaven. The truth was ever there. When the Jiva was seeing it as Rajju, at that time also it was Rajju only. It was Jiva only. When the individual is looking at himself as a Jiva, at that very time Ishvara is there. It is Ishvara who is there. It is Ishvara who is looking at himself as Jiva. Nothing goes, nothing converts, nothing changes. It is the error which is corrected by the knowledge. By the knowledge of these Shastras. The problem is that Jiva thinks himself as separate from Ishvara. He sees the two identities, one as Ishvara and other as himself. Whereas the fact is, all that is there is Ishvara. It is not that Ishvara is someone who is located somewhere and the Jivan Mukta joins him there. Gaining Brahman is strictly in terms of knowledge only. Please understand, it is only the knowledge which corrects the error of Jiva as Jiva. This was what we had seen yesterday. The absolute Vedant we saw. It was about Krishna himself, Ishvara himself, his Divya Janma and the truth. Ishvara doesn't take birth because of some punya and papa like Jiva takes. Ishvara attains the form and there is a reason why he attains the form. We also did this. Dharma sansthapanarthaya. Remember? Should I read it out to you again? The Ishvara takes birth because yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyutthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranam sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He keeps on taking form whenever there is a dharma. The rise of adharma, he takes form. And the form is a divine one, not the ordinary one, which is out of the karmas of papa and punya. He attains the form for protection of those who are trying to correct their error, who are into the Shastras, and to bring people who are not into Shastras back to Shastras, to change Adharmi's mind. He comes and protects dharma. In verse number 10, we will see how purified the discipline of knowledge. Many have come back to my nature. Krishna says, purified by the discipline of knowledge, many have come back to my nature. This is very important. Without discipline in knowledge, there is no knowledge at all. Vitarag bhaya krodha manamaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa bhuta madbhavamagataha. Free from craving, fear and danger, anger, totally resolved in me, taking refuge in me, purified by the discipline of knowledge, many have come back to my nature. See, without discipline in nature, knowledge, without discipline, study, there is no moksha. Studying one shloka from this point, this part, studying another shloka from other part, and reciting them again and again will not liberate you. Maybe if you have done complete Shastra discipline study in your lives, and due to prarabdha karmas you are born again, and if you take up few shlokas from here and there, and the jnana is, and you are enlightened, previously enlightened, and that enlightenment continues because of few shlokas, it's okay. But for a jnani, one must understand thorough knowledge, thorough study, thorough and regular study, sansthagat study, absolutely sansthagat study through a parampara of Guru Shishya parampara. Only then, in that discipline, the one is purified. Purified means attains knowledge. We have seen that the one who knows Krishna in reality knows that there is no real birth, janma or action. There is no real janma or action, karma for the person. there is no real Janma or Karma, then who is that person? Where the person cannot be Mr. Krishna, who was born at a given time and place, so too for everyone he or she can be Paramatma. Thus Krishna says, the one who knows this reaches me. The one who knows through thorough study that there is no real Janma or action, karma. To know Krishna in this way is to know oneself. One who is a jiva, an individual who does not know the identity between oneself and Ishvara, cannot understand Ishvara. The limited individual is not going to know that which is all knowledge, omniscient. Even to spell the word omniscient is a problem. Therefore, the most of that can be said is that Ishvara's knowledge is not limited. All knowingness, sarva janatva, the knower of all the knowledge, can never be understood by alpa jnana, the one with limited knowledge. But sarva jnanatva is only in relation to alpa jnanatva. See, very peculiar point. You have to pick it up. Very cleverly you have to pick it up. You need to have that intensity to pick this. The sarva jnana is only in relation to the alpa jnana. Both limited knowledge and all knowledge are adjuncts, upadhis, with reference to each other. The division between them is due to upadhi alone. Krishna's statement, only the one who knows the Paramatma reaches me, is to be understood in terms of the Paramatma not being separate from oneself. Krishna has said this before and is merely confirming it here before picking up the topic of sorrow. The jiva is one with the Ishvara. There is no second to Ishvara. This is what the Ishvara is trying to explain. And through knowledge only this is cleared. Krishna tells Arjuna that this knowledge had been around since the beginning and people had always been reaching him in this manner by knowing. There is nothing new about it. Here again Krishna says that any number of people have reached him. Bhava madha bhavam agatha. And why is it that everyone doesn't reach him? Why everyone doesn't reach him? There is no difficulty involved in reaching him. But first one needs to recognize that he must be reached. He must be reached. He has a destination. Having recognized this, how is one going to reach him? Is one's carving, one's craving, fears and anger drive one. In fact, there is nothing to reach because one is already Paramatma. You don't have to reach somewhere. There is no reaching. There is no changing. The question therefore is how far one's discerning power extends and what is it that one is choosing. In this verse, the people are whom the craving, fear and anger have gone away. Vitta raga bhava krodha. Bhaya and krodha, Vitta, raga, are described as those who have reached him in terms of knowledge. Only knowledge, only through knowledge one can reach Ishvara. Raga, dveshas are with fear and anger. We have seen that raga is the craving for objects, and once raga comes, dvesha in form of dislike and avoidance is also there. As soon as there is love for something, there is a hatred for another thing. It is automatic, it is simultaneous, they both come. These two always go together, and being powerful are binding in nature. Fear, bhaya, when come becomes inevitable because there is always some apprehension with the reference to one's ragas and dveshas. Every raga is fraught with the fear of undesirable unknown. This is all that binding desire or like is about. When there is a binding raga dvesha, such as this must happen to me, this must not happen to me, this must happen to me is raga, this must not happen to me is dvesha. How can there be absence of fear? There is always the fear of things not happening according to our expectations, because raga implies expectations, and whenever there is expectation, there is possibility of it not being fulfilled. No expectations can get fulfilled, and when this happens, there is sense of failure, fear of failure. Fear of failure will always be there because we are not omniscient. That thing do not always go our way is very clear to us. What we need to understand is the fear of the undesirable unknown will be fear as long as we are driven by ragas and dveshas. Raga, dvesha are not only fraught with fear, they are also fraught with anger, krodha. If raga is not fulfilled, your desire, kama, turns into anger. Anger against whatever is preventing the desire from being fulfilled. If the obstacle is another person, someone who is standing between you and whatever you want to accomplish, then your kama turns into krodha. If the binding kama is not there, there is no krodha. But if you think a certain thing must happen and your life will be incomplete if it does not, you cannot avoid anger because raga is binding. When there is obstruction that is preventing you from fulfilling your raga, there cannot be anger. When your raga is binding, the kama itself turns into anger. Thus, krodha is also there when your life is controlled by raga and dvesha. The raga, dvesha are neutralized. By paying attention to your raga, dvesha with the right attitude, you become vitta raga bhaya krodha, meaning you are relatively free from vitta, free from desires and fear and anger. You are free from desire and free from anger and fear of desires. They become one with me. Manamaya bhavanti. Such people have the vision of Ishvara as essentially non-separate from the jiva. The people who are free from raga, dveshas, become one with God, Ishvara, because they understand the non-separate nature of jiva. They have the vision of Ishvara as essentially non-separate from the jiva. Only when you understand that you are not supposed to bind yourself with ragas and dveshas, at least ragas to pakka. The vision of non-difference between Ishvara and Jiva. The reality, there is no difference between Jiva and Ishvara. This is the reality, that there is no difference between Ishvara and Jiva. And any seeming difference being brought about by Upadhi alone and is therefore Mithya. This Upadhi, I am Jiva, from point of view of this body, this Upadhi, this seeming difference, it is therefore Mithya. Since the difference is Mithya, non-difference is Satya, which is all that counts. The vision is Abheda Buddhi, non-difference, the identity of Jivishvara reflected in the statement. You are that. You are that. Tat Tvam Asi is made clear by further analysis, mananaha and contemplation, nididhyasana. Those people in whom this vision is clear are referred to in this verse as mamu pasarithaha. Those who have totally resolved into Parameshwara alone, for them there is no longer the mistaken notion that Jiva is separate from Parameshwara. The people who have identified, corrected their mithya bhava, corrected their error, the notion that Jiva is separate from Parameshwara, the self is Paramatma. The one who has no doubt whatsoever with reference to this particular vision is called Bhuta, meaning Shuddha, absolutely pure. In such people, there is not even a dash of impurity, because the self being Paramatma is always pure. The self is not rendered pure, it is pure. If the self were something that had to be rendered pure, some impurity would always be there. And how do these people become pure? By purifying fire of knowledge. Jnana tapasaha. Knowledge is the means, the sadhana. Here tapasa means by the fire of knowledge, by the discipline of knowledge, these people become pure. How does one become pure by knowledge? The knowledge that the self has never performed any action and therefore it is not guilty of any action, nor is it subject to any hurt, because it is not and never was an object of anyone else's action. Since the self Atma is neither the doer of the action nor the object of action, it is always Nitya Shuddha, eternally pure. The people being discussed in this verse were already Vitta Raga Bhaya Krodhas. They already have the necessary preparedness of mind, Antakaran Shuddhi, through Karma Yoga. However, it should be noted that Antakaran Shuddhi can never be absolute. There is always some Ashuddhi in form of Raga Dvesha. This is to say, whatever Antakaran Shuddhi that one gains through Karma Yoga is always relative. Absolute Shuddhi is never achieved, but can only be understood because Atma is ever Shuddha. Whereas relative Shuddhi, Antakaran Shuddhi, is something that is accomplished in the mind. Relative and absolute Shuddhi. Relative Shuddhi is process of growth, a process of maturity, wherein life of alertness, discipline, commitment and prayer is involved. If the life of purification, it is the life of purification and being a process, It takes certain length of time. Absolute Shuddhi cannot be a process of purification, because the impure can never become pure by any amount of purifying. It will always, there will remain some impurity. No matter what the process is, the self is absolutely Shuddha, is already pure. The self which is absolutely Shuddha, Shuddha is already pure. So what is impure actually? Purity means freedom from raga, dvesha, punya, papa. Freedom from everything. In fact, this purity is nature of Atma, which is nirguna, free from all attributes, akarta, free from doership, and so on. And those who know this are also pure bhutas, meaning that they have understood the fact that as Atma they are eternally pure. They are madhabhavam agatha, as Krishna puts in meaning, they have come back to be me. This coming back of bhava, so many jivas, is to be understood in terms of identity between Jiva and Ishvara. It is not that all these Jiva have come to Ishvara and are sitting upon him, nor has he collected them all to him so that they have become an integral part of his heart or his being. This is particular knowledge reveals the fact that the Jiva is Ishvara. All these people have understood themselves. They have not entered anything. This is to be understood. They have understood the oneness of Jiva with Ishvara. Those who know this fact are called Jnana Nishthas, because not only have they gained the knowledge, but they are well established in it. Reaching Bhagavan is not dependent upon any tapas other than knowledge. Reaching Bhagavan is not dependent upon any tapas. कोई तपस्या की आवश्यकता नहीं है. Knowledge. There is no other tapas available other than knowledge. Thus to say purified by discipline, tapasaputaha, is not enough. The word jnana has to be added because there are other forms of tapas. The pursuit of knowledge is the primary tapas. The word tapas refers to any spiritual or religious discipline. For example, a person who chants Gayatri mantra for 6 hours is said to be doing religious tapas. A person who observes silence for length of time is also doing tapas, provided of course he or she is doing it for religious purpose. As a mental prayer, however, to keep quiet purely out of consideration for other is entirely different. It is not tapas. When a person is performing a spiritual discipline like contemplation or studying the Shastra, it is tapas. Swadhyaya, study of Shastra is considered to be the great tapas. Therefore, those who are committed to listening to Shastra, Shravana, and to self-inquiry, Vichara, are doing tapas. The people who are studying Shastra, the people who are concentrating on Shastra, the people who are doing Shravana of Shastra, the people doing inquiry about Shastra, the people who are doing Vichara about Shastra are doing the actual tapas. Although there are many forms of tapas, to become established in this knowledge requires only jnana tapas. The pursuit of knowledge is the tapas. The word jnana is prefixed to tapas to show that jnana nishtha does not depend upon any other tapas. It is because moksha is not anything other than being established in this knowledge. There is no other moksha. For moksha you require knowledge, and for knowledge you do not require anything else except Shastra Vichara. inquiry into Shastra. Thus, the pursuit of knowledge itself is the means. Then what about all other disciplines? They are meant for preparing the mind so that this knowledge can take place. They are preparing groundwork. This is what is meant by purification of mind, antahkaran shuddhi. The other disciplines are secondary means, where knowledge is the primary means. To say that the other disciplines are secondary is not to say that they have no place. Please understand. Nowhere it is being said that they have no place. The distinction is to be understood. The distinction to be understood is that the other disciplines are indirect means of moksha, in that they prepare or purify the antahkarana, while pursuit of knowledge is direct means for the knowledge that is moksha. Does everyone come back to Ishvara? The last question comes in the mind is, does everyone come back to Ishvara? Because Krishna uses the word bhavaha. Many here, Arjuna could assume that only some people come back to Ishvara and others don't. Bhavaha, being plural, can refer to any number of jivas, starting with 3. Even you and me can. But we have to put in our all effort in jnana tapas. The point here is that even if it is just 3, a million or more, a finite number is implied, Arjuna may therefore have asked Krishna, why does he not allow everyone to come to him? To such question, Krishna could have only answered, I can only take them to me if I am separate from them. All jivas are already, they have to just correct the error. All those who have corrected the errors through jnana, through vichara, comes to God, Ishvara. I can only take them to me if I am separate from them, but I am them. If I were separate, perhaps there might be something I could do about it. But since they are non-separate from me, what can I do? It is not a case of my having to bring them to me, because I am already identical with them. There is nothing here that I have to do. As Ishvara, they can invoke me, and in whatever form they invoke me, I bless them. Whatever they desire, they get. Therefore, I am not to blame in this particular situation. I do not have any raga dvesha to fulfill in this manner. Nor do I take names out of hat every day to see that some people suffer and some people remain happy and so on. I do not follow any such rule. Krishna paves the way for the next section, in which he explains how Ishvara is free from any kind of blame with reference to what happens in one's life. Otherwise, he would be left asking why Ishvara bless one person and not another, and why is it he so partial. This is what we will see in next verse, verse number 11. In whatever way people invoke me, I bless them in the same form. Ye yatha me prapagante tam sattatheva bhajamyaham mamavatmanu varnate manushyah partha sarvashah. Those who worship me in whatever way, I bless them. In the same way, Partha, Arjuna, people follow my path in all ways. This we will see tomorrow. This is a beautiful text. The whole Gita is so beautiful. There is no word which can be left out as non-desirable. Each and every single word of Gita is full of knowledge. हरि ओम तत्सत्। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। हरि ओम तत्सत्। ओम गुरुभ्यो नमः। ओम